Hello everyone, this is our review of Furiosa. If you've seen our Avatar The Way of Water review, you know that we're both broke.
That was the best review.
Thank you. You might be asking yourselves, how did we get the funds to go see it? Well, they're actually showing it for free in Australia because Australia right now is just like in the movie, where it's a total wasteland. The movie's a documentary, and it's Australia right now. So that's how we're able to actually experience it, because we just stepped outside. We just stepped outside and we watched the whole thing happen. So this is our review of Australia 2024, aka Furiosa, a Mad Max.
A Mad Max saga.
I've got notes. Note number 1. It was good. But here's the caveat,
Okay.
And everyone knows this, Fury Road was better. It'd be very difficult to remake Fury Road, especially the energy, the momentum that that movie has straight away. As soon as that movie opens, you just...
From the first scene already, it's all about actions. That's what you want in watching a movie. Do you agree?
Sometimes, like, if it's an action movie, then yes, I think you do want just non-stop action, which is what Fury Road was. They knew that they weren't going to recreate that energy, is my guess. So they put a lot more story, I would say, or just plot beats, right? It changes. It's not just, we got to go there, and then we got to go back. Because that's all Fury Road is. A lot of people criticize it for that. Maybe they're addressing some of the criticism for Fury Road by putting a lot more story and character-driven elements. The advertising, the marketing, the posters, the trailers, none of it is doing justice to Alyla Browne. Alyla Browne, well done. Good job.
Yeah.
So she's Furiosa for like half the movie. So
Her acting was really good.
her character sees horrible things. She sees her mum be tortured before killed. People get ripped to shreds by a bunch of vehicles all splitting someone apart. She sees people commit suicide, like martyrdom style. Spoilers, this will be spoilers, just spoilers throughout, okay? So the main driving force of the movie, the guy that makes everything happen is Chris Hemsworth's character, Dementus.
Dementus.
So Dementus finds Furiosa, kills her mum. He then goes trying to look where Furiosa came from, believing it to be some sort of paradise, but she never takes him there. Instead, he finds the Citadel with Immortan Joe and the War Boys. The eight. Where you're introduced to Chris Hemsworth's character. He's in this like tent wearing a white robe, like on his knees, and there's some dude explaining like some vehicle to him. They get to the Citadel, they have to choose one war boy. The war boy jumps down and commits suicide, blowing up a bunch of people. All of that just to show how much power the big dogs have at the Citadel and how much all their lackey war boys are just, you know, blinded by faith and will do whatever they say. I love the contrast between the guys at the top of the hill. They are the top dogs. They look down on everyone. Yeah. They are completely safe. They aren't even fazed by Chris Hemsworth showing up. And then the war boys will do anything for them. And then at the ground level is just the scum of the earth. Just people crawling around. They're all like mutated or dying or like starving. They're all skinny and they live in holes in the ground.
I do like how Chris Hemsworth just rocks up there, just, I'm the best, and you need to give me all your food.
Yeah, even though Furiosa is the main character, she's a kid at the beginning, right? So she just wants to hide and escape, and she wants to go home, but there's just too many things in the way. When they get there, they make a deal, and Furiosa goes and stays with Immortan Joe. Chris Hemsworth can't get the big tower. What's the second best thing? There's 3 towns. If you remember in Fury Road, the closest one from what it seems like in the movies to the Citadel is Gastown. So he goes straight there. He screws over some of his biker gang in getting into there, which just is another element of his character I really like. They've got this perfect system, right? So at the Citadel, they have all the food and water, and they're trading gas from Gastown, because in this world, we all love vehicles, bikes, cars. What else do we want and we love? Weapons.
Yes.
So that's why the bullet farm's important, because without ammunition, without weapons, how are we going to defend ourselves? So they all trade, and it's this perfect little ecosystem. And then in comes Chris Hemsworth just to fuck it all up. After he's taken over Gastown, he wants to get a better bargain. He feels like they're not getting enough food. Even though I don't think he even knows how much food they're getting, he just wants more. He goes to the Citadel, and just before he comes in, Immortan Joe and his gang are figuring out, well, his gang, who's his gang? So we've got Rectus and Scrotus. Awesome names. Yeah. There's another guy, the guy who's always rubbing his nipple. I forget his name, but he's excellent. He's so fucking good. I'm so glad they brought him back. In fact, I think all the guys from Fury Road are in this, pretty much. Anyway, so they're all deciding, like, what are they going to do to this dickhead when he comes in? He comes in with a bomb at Gastown and a code. He has to put in the code to stop the fucking Gastown from exploding. So they're like, well, shit. What are we going to do now?
Can't fuck him up.
No. So they have this little altercation with Rectus, and Chris Hemsworth's character is like trying to force him to like hold this thing, and then he accidentally lets it go, and it rips off Chris Hemsworth's nipples. Over the course of the rest of the scene, you just see the blood slowly trickling out of his nipples. My summary of Chris Hemsworth in this is a cross between Heath Ledger's Joker and Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow. He's a bit wacky, he's a bit zany. There's a few bits like this, which is very much like this. But what did you think about him as the villain?
Didn't like Chris Hemsworth's acting there.
Ooh.
Maybe because I've been watching a lot of like Marvel movies with him as Thor. Very serious, like nothing.
Thor's pretty funny.
He is funny, but you know, in a serious, funny way.
I agree to a point. I think definitely in the first Thor, that was the case, where he's like, another, and he smashes the glass. Like, that's not his character being funny. That's his character being serious. He wants another drink.
Another drink. I just don't see him as a villain.
Well, maybe you would have just preferred it if they framed him more as a villain or as a good guy. Because he's he's in the middle, you know?
Yeah, that's it.
They're trying to go for a really likable villain. Like Jack Sparrow, right? He's not a villain. You don't think of him as a villain. But they're both actually kind of like anti-heroes, right? They're both bad guys that are just purely selfish, but have a good heart or whatever. They're funny, they're entertaining. I'd say that's what Chris Hemsworth's doing in this. You mentioned to me when we came out of the cinema, you didn't like his accent.
Yeah, it's a really, really bad accent though.
I assume that's pretty much his normal accent.
Well, do you want me to have a sample of it, how it sounds?
Going.
Oi, something like this. Just something like this, just speaking like this. Do you even like this, how it...
Yeah.
That's really good.
Thank you.
That's exactly how he sounds in the movie. I'd say it's more of the voice. It's not an accent, it's the voice. Because he is Australian, so I've heard him in interviews. He's got a much deeper voice, you're correct. He's doing a high up sort of thing, like, I can't really do it, but yeah, he's... Yeah! He's kind of like, yeah!
Yeah, yep.
I think I got it. Yeah! I like his character, and his character is the driving force of the movie. He starts a war. It's not a very long war, I remember that. He's responsible for that because he goes and takes over the bullet farm as well, because the Gastown's not enough for him. But I can see in those moments where it's him just talking or whatever, the acting's a bit weird.
Imagine using his actual voice and accent. I can feel that he can portray the villain really good.
So you're saying if he was more like Thor, he would have been better?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a moment where Furiosa gets snatched up by this group of people in the tunnels. Getting dragged down. This isn't Anya Taylor-Joy yet. This is still the first girl,
Yep.
Alyla Browne, who is really good in it. Chris Hemsworth has to go save her. You do see for a moment what's in the tunnels, and there's like this old hag. And it pays off later. In fact, that's one of the grossest scenes. He was recoiling in his seat at the sight of the maggots and the...
I actually like it. Blood and gore.
Yeah, it was really well done. Like how dark and gross it was in there. And you have no idea where she is at that moment. You're like, what the heck?
I feel like it's just eating her alive.
Yeah.
Just woke up.
The pacing was a bit odd. Like some bits went by really quick, and then some bits went for a while. There was like a few montages. There was like a time lapse of them building the war rig.
Oh, yeah, that's one.
The chapters helped break it up and aptly named. So that was all good, but it just, something about the pacing, like the war, right? This 14-day war, it's just like over and done with so quick. There's a few cool vehicles in this. The bike chariot.
Those three bikes.
Yeah, Dementus rides around with a bike chariot.
Ow!
This is our destiny.
It doesn't make any sense because there's a point where he jumps on it and just grabs it and it just drives. Like, okay, is there an accelerator on the floor? Like, I also really like Octoboss. He's kind of a goth dude. He has like a veil over his helmet. It's pretty badass, very like black metal. So he's attacking the war rig because he's at war with Chris Hemsworth. They've divided, and he's trying to take the war rig for himself instead of letting it go to Gastown, which is where Chris Hemsworth is at that point. So the Octoboss, it's so cool how they film it too, because you never see all the tentacles on the screen at the same time. They're basically these like wacky wailing, inflatable flailing. And you never see it all on screen. So it feels just massive and eerie to me, which is weird because it's in the midst of this like fun action scene. But then there's just this, he's just killing them.
Oh yeah, true,
literally. He kills your man. He kills Quaden Bayles.
Quaden Bayles.
Yeah, your favorite character. When we're watching
the
it.
small kids.
When we're watching it, this guy could not get enough of that character. You loved him.
And have you noticed as well that they have a lot of fillers, like just to make the time longer?
No.
Yes, there is. Like unnecessary scenes.
You're saying there's filler and unnecessary scenes. Like what?
Scene.
Like what? What's an unnecessary scene?
One is like the little kid. He looked up 3 times, which should be just one to just notify him, and the second one is like where the action comes. I think he did 3.
There's an action scene with a truck, and they're being chased, and this little guy really wants to set this whirly machine on the back of the truck.
Do the mommy knocker! Now!
He wants to turn it on and kill the enemies. But from his vantage point, he can't see what's going on. So he has to wait for someone to tell him to turn it on. So throughout the scene, it cuts back to him. First time, he wants to turn it on, and then like bad guys get on top of the truck. So he gets down. Second time, you see him, he's just in the thing, and he's like sitting on top of a big pile of food, because that's the whole point of this trip, is to deliver the food to Gastown, I think. And that's just kind of like a funny little shot of him sitting on the food. Third time, he's like trying to actually get it to work. Then they get shot at, appears to dive down, to which Furiosa, I believe, then turns on the machine. Next time you see him, he's dead. So he didn't actually just dive down, he actually got shot, and you see him dead. So I actually think they were well done, because if you just had 1 or 2 of those shots, then you wouldn't get, why is he manning this weapon?
Why did they put that switch of that machine inside where the food is?
Good question. I think it's just the control button is right beside where it was. That was the first drive of the war rig. It had never been used before. So this is the first time you're seeing it being used. So I guess there's going to be things wrong with it. And the main thing that was wrong with it was putting the button for that whirly machine at the back. It has a name, and the kid keeps saying the name, and he wants to use it. And I think that's funny. You've got an action scene. You want to be cutting between all the characters where they are, throwing in a bit of comedy here and there. And you also don't want to just have punch after punch after punch. You need to cut away from the action. So you brought that up as an example of filler. I think there's no filler in the movie. And I think there are bad things in the movie, or things that could have been done better. I just don't think there's any filler necessarily. Because really, this movie's unnecessary. This is a prequel. My biggest thing I hate about prequels is all they're there to do is backstory for what you've already seen. This movie is set directly before Fury Road. In fact, it ends right where Fury Road starts. Prequels do that thing where they just show where everything came from. Her robot arm, her shaved head, her little punching knife.
Really?
Fisticuff knife.
Oh, yeah.
She got it from her mentor guy.
Yep.
Jack? Is it his name? Praetorian Jack? Pretty sure that's his name. Her mentor. The first driver of the war rig. He looks out of place in this movie because there's nothing wrong with him.
Maybe that's the reason why he's what they call the best driver.
Well, Furiosa's got a missing arm.
The question is...
There is a romance in this movie. It doesn't last very long. And it seems...
Good amount.
What do you think about the romance?
I think it's not necessary. I like the amount of quote quote romance because I'm not sure.
Oh, you like the amount?
I just like the amount of.
Oh, okay.
It's just a small. But like I said, one thing that I do notice, even though you would say it has a romance scene, I don't feel like it's a romance scene. It's like just caring for a friend.
It was ambiguous. He's cool. He's good at his job, driving and shooting and stuff. And she gets all those skills. She basically learns all those attributes from him. He basically, teaches her how to drive.
Gets a gun.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's how she got her gun.
If you consider that as a romance scene or a romance moment, I just like how it is. Like, it's just very short.
Please don't make another prequel about Praetorian Jack. That would be fucking stupid. We don't need that. His character was fine to be like her mentor in the middle of the movie, but I don't think we needed the romance at all. There's a bit in the movie when she's a young girl and she's thrown into a room filled with pregnant ladies or ladies that are there to give birth, Immortan Joe's wives. So that's cool. Like you get to see what that was like back then. There's a lot more of them than there is in Fury Road, which is cool because, they die off. He kills them or they die giving childbirth or everything's wrong in this world. I like Angus Sampson return as the organic mechanic. And in Fury Road, he's like hooking up blood bags to the vehicles, which is just a human. It's awesome. So he's got a really cool role. It's very post-apocalyptic, sci-fi, grimdark kind of a thing. It's really cool. Angus Sampson is very funny. If you haven't seen Thank God You're Here, an old Australian comedy show, improv show, he was one of the best returning actors on that. Loved him in that.
You're simply insufferable.
Yes. Shall we take our clothes off?
He should be in more stuff. So he is the organic mechanic for all these pregnant wives. But the weird thing is, you don't really see any time that Furiosa has with these women. It feels like she's only there for a day or two.
Yeah, because Immortan Joe's son, what is the name?
Rectus?
Rectus, I think wants her, basically.
Right, so that's why she escapes. Rectus is being a bit of a pedo. Now, there's something wrong in his brain. He might just like the jingles from her hair. She's got bells in her hair. He might just like the jingles or her hair or both. Or he might want to do something worse. You get this insidious feeling, you're scared for her, you want her to escape. So that's how she gets out of the breeding room. But to me, it just felt like she wasn't in there long enough to actually get to know any of the characters in Fury Road that she is saving. If you remember in Fury Road, she's saving all these girls. Is it really the fact that she's just saving a bunch of random girls? It feels... I don't know. It feels like she should have got to know them a bit better. And then in Fury Road, it would make sense. Like, she really cares for these people.
I'm Furiosa!
So the timeline is completely fucked. Would you say Furiosa is supposed to be around 30 in Fury Road? Because in this movie, she starts at about 10 and she ages up through her teens. And Mad Max, he's, 10 years older than her, maybe 20 if you're generous. He's living in Australia before the nuclear blasts. Things are pretty normal. In the first Mad Max movie, Australia's pretty much as it was back then. Now, in the start of Furiosa, it ain't. So let's say there's 30 years between Mad Max and Furiosa's characters. Only then would it make sense. Let's be really generous. Let's say Max is only 20 in the first Mad Max movie.
Okay.
Then 30 years pass and Fury Road happens. It just seems like in Fury Road, at least, that they're much closer in age. It seems like they're probably within 10 years of each other. That's the thing with these movies, especially the first three to now, these two. I don't think George Miller is really concerned with things being consistent. He doesn't care about continuity, really.
Come on, George Miller.
It's all like a mythology. It's a mythos. It's just tales told from the wasteland. The ending, for me, was a bit disappointing. I know that they were not going for your classic good guy facing off with a bad guy and a big fight scene and then the good guy wins. It's done to death. It was the worst part of The Northman, which was a really good movie up until I thought the ending. I know you haven't seen The Northman, right? Yes, it's a Viking movie. In fact, I think Anya Taylor-Joy's in that as well. That one is not as much action movie. It's just the ending. It's like they didn't know what to do. I think it's another revenge movie. And so, yeah, the ending's just a face-off between like the main character and the main villain. So this movie doesn't do that. It does the Kill Bill 2 ending. I don't know if you've seen Kill Bill.
1, yes.
You haven't seen Kill Bill 2?
No.
What the heck? So you're expecting this big duel. Maybe it's the acting or the editing or just the beats or something. It's just something about that scene felt off. So there's a bit where Chris Hemsworth is unconscious. I was just waiting for him to like wake up and like attack her, you know, because she's got a car. He can get away in her car. But I don't know why he like is unconscious and then he just comes to and just starts talking again. It's weird. It just felt wrong. Like they needed to do something, make maybe Anya Taylor-Joy more cautious, not get so close to him where she could get attacked. I don't know. It didn't feel good.
He did try to escape. Remember the knife from her?
Yes, grabs a knife which she left as a trap for him because the blade's already been broken. He's like, shit. He has a seizure and then he's knocked out and she's like looking at him and deciding what to do. And then he slowly comes to. I'm like, he could have faked that seizure and then just grabbed her.
Yeah.
I know that he didn't fake it, so therefore that's why. As a member of Australia watching it from a distance, I was just outside of the camera shot. I was just looking at him and going, just hit her. Because I didn't know that he wasn't faking. I assume because of all the media I've consumed, you know, Game of Thrones, all the twists, you know, especially that fight with the Viper in the mountain. The Viper thought he'd won. He's prancing around the mountain on his back. He's like, ooh. He's standing there right beside him. The mountain just whacks his legs. He falls to the ground. The mountain gets up and crushes his fucking skull. No! That's what I thought Chris Hemsworth was going to do to Anya Taylor-Joy. Now, we know that Anya Taylor-Joy survives because obviously Fury Road. But you just think, is he going to like hit her and take a car and drive off? Because we didn't know the runtime of this thing. We're just standing out in the desert watching it. So we didn't know when it's going to end. Are we only at the halfway point? Is she going to then, you know, be stranded in the desert for a while and find some place and then get a new set of weapons in a vehicle and go and kill him? I didn't know what was going to happen, but no, apparently it was the end.
It should have been more action, I guess.
Okay, so you wanted a cliche action scene.
Yeah. Like,
okay, fair enough.
Like a good guy, bad guy, and the good guy wins, and you know, like.
I liked how it started, where she's like following him. He's out of breath. He's dehydrated. He's trying to run away from her in a car. He doesn't know who she is. There's just this car following him, and every time he stops, the car stops. And he's like, ugh. He walks a little bit. The car then creeps forward. And then he goes to chase the car, and the car reverses, and he's like, you win. I liked how that started. Do you like that as well?
I actually like it.
Okay, so in your mind where this would end up in an action fight-off, what would happen from there?
I would say something like, because I actually like blood and gore, so...
Well, she just runs him over.
She has a metal arm, you know, like a robot arm.
Or she just rips his head off. Wouldn't that have ended too suddenly, though?
Yeah, but like, say, bit of talk, like you know, in the movie they just.
Because I like that she's begging for her family or her mother back, and it's funny, but it's pretty sad too, because she can't get it back. That's the thing with revenge stories is. You want revenge for the thing, but you're never going to get it back. And so he's telling her, you can't. It's impossible. You can't get it back. And she knows she can't get it back. I like that she was yelling for it. Like, give it back, you know?
Well, come to think of it, Chris Hemsworth doesn't actually know Furiosa's name from the start till the end. He just calls her...
Little D.
Little D.
Yeah,
Little D.
that's true. He does just go a Little D.
Yeah. How about that scene where the narrator said that Chris Hemsworth is barely alive?
Yeah.
Has a tree on his stomach.
His groin.
Like,
it's growing from his dick.
Yeah, how does that work?
So, because it's just what the narrator is saying. It's an unreliable narrator. He starts off by saying, maybe this happened, maybe that happened. But Furiosa whispered to me and me only Like, yeah, okay.
If that is true, I actually don't like that. Like,
Yeah, I don't think it's supposed to be
weird.
true. This is before Fury Road, so it's never mentioned or brought up in Fury Road that, there's some tree growing out of a dick. Anyway.
It's weird, like she said that this is the first fruit, but it's not for us. It's something like that. Yeah, she said that.
Symbolic, Gerard. It's all symbolic.
But it's weird still.
It's,
a tree.
Notice where it's
coming out
growing out of? It's growing out of his dick. That's where sperm comes from.
Ugh.
The tree of life. Life.
Yes, yes.
Babies. Genitalia.
And that's the apple. Is
Sex.
Yep.
I agree, it's funny and weird. It's supposed to be, though. It's not supposed to be like, this is what happened. It's like, what the fuck? There's a tree growing out of his dick. It's stupid. Right? But it's stupid, funny, but it really suits these movies because they've got this crazy, wacky tone, right? Everything's way over the top.
Good point.
And it would have been too good just to kill him off. So I like the fact that they just, he's just suffering. Because that's the other thing. He's not just lying there. He's like shriveled up, barely a human. Like he's skinnier than a skinny person. Like he's shriveled up.
If it's going to be like that with the ending, they should have had more scenes of torture. Her torturing him.
They
Like,
should
just
a few.
one.
Yeah, they were like, maybe she tortured him for hours. And you see a little bit of her torturing him. You just think that to throw it in the mix more.
Yeah.
But because they like linger on that tree one, it's like, this is what happened.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're saying throw in the mix more of her torturing him, doing all kinds of weird, wacky, crazy things. Yeah, I agree. I think that would have been cool because they could have got creative with it, not just showing her torture him the way he's tortured other people throughout the movie, dragging them behind cars and all that sort of thing. I see what you're saying about the ending. They could have made it even more ambiguous by just having more creative ideas because there's just a bunch of like, maybe this happened, or maybe he's a tree. But it is, again, going back to the fact revenge is pointless.
Yeah.
And that's what I think these Mad Max movies are really about. It's after a nuclear war where the whole world is destroyed. It's a cautionary tale, right? Like, if you use your nukes, this is what the world's going to be like. It's going to be a bunch of friggin' cannibals in the desert killing each other with crazy vehicles. So I think that they were just tying it back into that original theme and saying she's getting revenge. This is what the entire movie's about. And look, it wasn't worth it. Like, what did she get out of it? She got nothing out of it.
Yeah.
After the last shot in the movie is the end credits. Do you remember what the end credits were?
Yeah, it's like bits of scene from Fury Road.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's so weird. I don't know why they did that. They just made a movie. Can you use some of the footage from the movie you just made? It felt weird.
It's just saying they wanted the people that just watched Furiosa to maybe watch again Fury Road. Or freshen their minds that this is what happens and this is the ending and then this is the start. Remember? Something like that.
In the opening trailers for this movie, they did this weird thing, Twisters. They played the Twisters trailer. They played like 6 tiny little clips in between every other trailer. And the first time they did it, I thought, did they just put a trailer in the middle of a Twisters trailer? Because it goes Twisters trailer, other movie trailer, and then another Twisters trailer. I was like, did they mess up? But then they kept doing it. So clearly it was intentional. It's just this weird marketing for Twisters. Instead of having one long trailer, it's just these little clips.
Maybe it's a new trend.
Could be. But then they couldn't all be doing that.
Yes.
If all trailers did that, it wouldn't work. You'd just be like, clip, 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 clip.
Maybe it's like twist back again with the new one.
Whoa. Anya Taylor-Joy is really good in this. We did rave on about Alyla Browne. She's excellent, but Anya Taylor-Joy does a great job at being Charlize Theron, pretty much. Would you agree?
Yeah, she portrayed Charlie Theron. You would not think that they've changed actors or actress.
Yeah, they actually blended from the little girl all the way to her becoming Charlize Theron really well, where when she's a kid, they like used Anya Taylor-Joy's like face in moments, and then maybe they blended it maybe with CGI, I don't know. And then at the end, it looks like they just had Charlize Theron at the very end, getting the girls out and putting them in the truck.
Oh, yeah, yes.
That just looked like her. Whether it was a cameo or CGI, I don't know. My favorite movie that Anya Taylor-Joy has been in, or at least her role, my favorite role that she's been in is The Witch. That movie, she's really good in it. And the movie's insane.
Have you watched the Queen's Gambit?
Yeah, she's really good in Queen's Gambit. I don't think I've ever seen her do a bad role. To finish this movie review, I would like to rank the Mad Max movies, because we've both lived through all of the movies, being in this post-apocalyptic wasteland that we live in. My lowest in the rankings is actually Beyond Thunderdome. I saw it just a couple of days ago, and it is actually really good. So a lot of people badmouth Thunderdome, say it's bad, it's got Tina Turner, and it's skip it. I disagree. Mad Max in Fury Road is most like Mad Max in Beyond Thunderdome. So all these movies are great. All of them. Don't skip any. The next one up from that, I would actually put Furiosa, this one.
Ah, okay.
Its shortcomings to me are the fact that it's a prequel, and unfortunately, it just couldn't live up to Fury Road. It never could, and it was never going to. Next one, OG, Mad Max, the first one. Very first Mad Max movie is my third in this order. It's a classic. Mad Max actually earns that name in this movie. He's starting off as just an Aussie policeman, and he slowly gets a little bit more wound up and aggravated the more the movie goes on, so earning the name Mad Max. Next one up from Mad Max is Road Warrior. Now, this one and Fury Road, I was like, which one's best? I was swapping them around because Road Warrior is awesome. The villain is really cool. And my number one is Fury Road.
100%. 100%. Nothing is bad about Fury Road. That's just the simplest way I can say it.
You can criticize elements like, for example, story. It's better off having less of a story. Just give it a really simple story, so then you can just enjoy all the over-the-top fight scenes and gymnastics and stunts, vehicles, explosions, weaponry, imagery. It's awesome. So that's it. That was our review of Furiosa. Wingardium Furiosa.
No.
It's Furiosa. Bye.
Bye.